It was only once till I read Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, that I really got the sense of how to move a story along through dialogue other than just description.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now we're diving into a powerful book. It is called The Lebensborn Experiment, and it is written by a terrific author. Her name is Joyce Yvette Davis. The book is a gripping World War II thriller that blends historical fiction with the pulse-pounding intensity of science fiction. Set in a Nazi castle during the war's chaotic final days, the novel unleashes a life-altering serum that resurrects the dead and transforms ordinary men into enhanced soldiers. This riveting and imaginative tale takes readers on a high-stakes journey through war, survival, and the human cost of playing God. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at City of Books for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Joyce, great to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, great to be here.
This is such a powerful book. Let's start out by telling the folks at home what the real Lebensborn program was all about.
Well, it was started out as just maternity homes for married and unwed mothers. And then once the war got started, the Germans kind of confiscated it and turned it into homes where they would send children from Poland and Lithuania and all around, and they would indoctrinate them at those homes. And then they would send them out to be adopted by German parents. They would change their name and everything, and they would just give them a whole new identity now as a German rather than what they were.
Basically was an Aryan nation breeding ground where they wanted blonde-haired, blue-eyed children to populate Germany, and they were importing babies and moms from all over to do that. And it's such a sick, twisted experiment, it's good and important that you brought it to light. Tell us how your story takes this real-life program and gives it a sci-fi twist.
Well, it gives it a twist because when I introduced the Black soldiers, although we know that Black soldiers were in World War II, and so it was just that was the twist, to introduce Black soldiers and then to have it where, okay, they're doing these experiments, and in the book they accidentally give it to one of the Black soldiers, and so now they have a situation where they have a Black soldier who has these enhanced abilities and these abilities to live forever. And, now they can't control it, just like everything else. You think you're gonna do something that's gonna do something for somebody else, and then it ends up getting all twisted and turned around. That's life,
Exactly. Unintended consequences is what life is all about. You create a serum that is life-altering. It creates immortality. You want it only for your people. Next thing you know, they've got it too. So I think that's a terrific part of the story. Tell us a little bit about your vision for this book. Have you ever visualized it as a film or a TV series?
I have visualized it as a film. I think unconsciously I might have wrote it that way, giving it more visuals. I grew up, reading a lot of Black authors like Native Son, Richard Wright and things like that. And they told the story, but for a Black person, they were kind of horrific. You kind of had to hold your nose and bite your tongue and read through it. It was only once till I read Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, that I really got the sense of how to move a story along through dialogue other than just description, you know.
Yeah.
And I love romance novels, but it was the only thing that romance novels, I used to read a whole lot of Victoria Hope. And I don't know if you remember Victoria, she was one of those, she was like Barbara Cartland. And
Right.
she was one of those, but she would give you pages and pages and pages of description. And it would just go on. And that was like half the book,
No.
And that's what I kind of grew up in. But then when I wrote in high school, when I read Pride and Prejudice, and I said, oh my goodness, look at all this dialogue. And then it just taught me how to move things along with dialogue instead of moving along with that description. And so that's what a screenplay is. I mean, that's what, it's dialogue. You're moving it not through, you give a little bit of the details of the background, but mostly it's people talking. That's what moves us along. And so that's kind of how more or less I wrote the book, with heavy on the dialogue and just a little bit on the description, because I felt like the best books I read is when I could use my imagination. You just give me a little bit of details of how it looks and I can fill in the rest,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've done a great job on this, bringing these characters and this era to life, and of course, building upon it with science fiction elements. I think it'd be a terrific series of films or TV series, however Hollywood chooses to imagine it. So Hollywood, if you're listening, here's a book that is ready to go. Give the folks at home a little bit of an overview of the story, the folks who haven't read the book.
Well, the book starts in a castle, in the Black Forest, where this professor, this doctor, is injecting a 10-year-old Polish boy that they've kidnapped and brought there with the serum. And at the same time, they have captured two Black soldiers from the 751st 61st Tank Battalion, and they were known as Patton's Panthers, General George Patton. And so they captured them, and they were going to execute them in front of Hitler. And so Colonel Strauss, he was waiting for Hitler to come to do this big execution. And by the time he got there, the boy would have awakened. And so this was the grand plan, to show Hitler that the serum works, and now you have this execution. And so everything was going to be a big deal. Unfortunately, Hitler committed suicide before that happened. And so that kind of took everything off the table that the colonel was planning. But then he still, in his ambition, he still wanted to go through with everything. And so he brought those two soldiers up to, he was just going to execute them and be done with it, give them this other drug that was supposed to just kind of more like torture them. And the doctor, he was so afraid, because he was dealing with, the stereotypes of Black men, and, how they're monsters and apes and everything. So he had this very exaggerated view of these men, and he was very afraid of them. And in that heightened situation, he ended up giving one of them the wrong serum. The first one, he gave him the right serum. The second one, he gave him the wrong serum. And so because the serum works according to your metabolism, some people may be revived or resurrected from the serum sooner than other people, because this all depends on your body. And so they thought he was dead, but then about 10 seconds later, he comes back to life.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
so he fights them, he kills them, and then he doesn't kill all of them, but he fights them. And then he's up in the tower, and then he drops out of the tower and he starts running. Even though he has several bullets, he's riddled with bullets, his body, he can't die. And so he's running through the forest, and he's remembering, flashing back, because he's kind of disorientated. Where am I? How did I get here? And then his mind starts to go back to his childhood. And then he remembers that his stepbrother was the other prisoner. And then he goes back to get his stepbrother. So that's basically, without telling you all the story, that's basically how it begins.
Amazing. It's a great setup. It's a great premise. It's a great story. Are you thinking about writing a sequel to this book?
Well, I have written a sequel. It's called The Lebensborn Alliance. And The Lebensborn Alliance takes place 11 years after the war. And it's during the Civil Rights Movement. And so Kapp, the main character, who has this serum in his body and has enhanced skills, he gets tagged to go and be the security guard for the bodyguard for Martin Luther King in Alabama. So he goes down there, and it's through a lot of different events. But before that, he has his friends who they go every year to a reunion of the 761st Tank Battalion. And so before he gets tagged to go be the bodyguard, they're driving home from this reunion, and they get chased by some Klans members and in the car. And then they have an accident, and his wife and his two best friends and their wives are in, serious condition. And he's, of course, the only one that has really, come out unscathed. And because of this, he's able, he gives, in a blood transfusion, he gives him their blood, some of them. And because of that, they now have that blood. And that's how he gets, gives them, of course, he doesn't know anything about the serum.
Right.
All he knows is that he has it, you know.
Exactly.
But so he doesn't know how he can give it to anybody or what's going on. And this is one way that he's able to transfer that, those abilities onto his wife and his two friends,
Amazing. An amazing story. I love how you updated it with the Martin Luther King angle. It sounds terrific. Can't wait to read that one. This book we've been talking about today is called The Lebensborn Experiment. It is a thrilling, thought-provoking journey through the horrors of war and the dangers of unchecked ambition. It is an amazing blend of history, fiction, and science fiction. You will just love it. Joyce, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I
appreciate your time, your wit, your wisdom, and your insight. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.
Bye.